Now, it is interesting to note that Nigeria's legal system is one that has been tailored to have a semblance with that of the Western world. We know that most of our existing laws have been in practice for several decades. In fact, since the British colonial rule before independence. Over the years, there have been arguments on the need to have many of these laws reviewed to suit the challenges and dynamics of the present time in our ever-changing world. As the societies the world over continue to evolve in the way they adopt and manage their laws, especially when we talk about criminal justice, what efforts are we taking in reforming our own laws here, and that many Nigerians say are somewhat obsolete? Is it true that the NLRC isn't doing enough in that area? What are its challenges? How can we ensure there's uniformity of our laws in terms of the criminal and penal code in all parts of the country and other important issues? Mr. Kefas Magaji, who is the Federal Commissioner of the Nigerian Law Reform Commission, is our guest to help provide some of these answers. It promises to be exciting. I'm Ayotunde Balogun, and it's question time. Mr. Kefas Musa Magaji, you're welcome to Question Time.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Now let's start right away to find out the level of reformation that the Nigerian Law Reform Commission has undertaken, since its inception in July of 1979.
First of all, you need to understand what is the purpose and the essence of law reform. Now, law reform is all about law responding to growth and development of the society. Now, the society is dynamic, and therefore, law should be seen to also grow as the society grows. Now, from 1979, when law reform came in place, law reform as an agency has been trying to respond now and to ensure that law responds to growth in Nigeria and the progress Nigeria is making. Now, law is not meant to be to follow the people, but law is meant to grow as the people grow. Because the essence of law is to regulate human conduct. Now, when the human society has now developed and the law is behind, certainly it will not regulate the society as it ought. And therefore, the essence of law reform is just to ensure that as society develops, law also develops to regulate that society for purpose of orderliness. And from 1979, as I said, when law reform agency came on board, it has been performing its mandate as prescribed by law. There has been some challenges. Now, essentially, the challenges in law reform as an agency has been the area of implementation. But I must say this too, that before coming on board of Law Reform Commission, it's not that there were no law reform. I mean, law reform was done by different parastatals and ministries. But with the coming in of the agency took over law reform exercises generally. But ministries and other organizations still engage in law reform.
So are you saying that other ministries, apart from the judiciary, also have a duty or a responsibility to make laws?
In law reform, you can make laws. But lawmaking is essentially a different gamut altogether. And from the setting now, law reform as an agency do not engage in lawmaking. The Law Reform Agency will now come up with law reform proposal, forward them to the Attorney General, who will in turn now take them to Federal Executive Council before it goes to the National Assembly as an executive bill. So it is the National Assembly that make laws in present setting. While during military administration, it was the Federal Executive Council or the whatever is the highest lawmaking body under the military administration, were the agency that was responsible in lawmaking. But law reform, on the other hand, like I said, now law reform just looks at the law as it is and to see whether the law is in tandem with the present realities, or there are some areas of deficiency by virtue of growth and development in the society. So the law is now reformed to meet up this present reality. Now that is but in law reform as an agency, we have the mandate under our law setting up the commission to come up with proposal for new laws in areas that there are no laws in existence. For instance, in the commission now, we have a proposal for sentencing guidelines in Nigeria. Now, under the present arrangement, a judge, after he has listened to a case, particularly like in criminal cases, now the law provides for a minimum sentence, a minimum or maximum of sentence he can impose. Now, our study has shown that the discretion judges have in imposing penalties vary from one judge to the other. You could discover somebody will commit an offense here, in Abuja here. A magistrate, possibly court one, magistrate might impose a punishment of 1 year. For the same offense, magistrate court 2 could impose 2 years. For the same offense, another magistrate could impose 6 months.
That's even within the same
yes, within the same jurisdiction. But what we are saying, look, no. As long as judges have the discretion to impose this sentence, but the discretion should be within the framework. Now, we are now trying to come up with these sentencing guidelines that will now guide the judges. If you are imposing a sentence, what do you look out for? Agreed, you have pronounced the man guilty of the offense, but still you should go beyond that in trying to determine what should be the sentence you should impose for that offense. Was the act that led to the commission of offense in violence? Was there no violence? Was there some threat? Was there some deceit? And some of those things, we now talk about aggravating factors, we talk about mitigating factors. Now, we have discovered in some jurisdictions, in the UK, in the US, and some other African countries, they have these sentencing guidelines. And we thought it is important we also have these sentencing guidelines here, so that judges, there could be some form of uniformity in sentences for the same or similar offenses, so that a judge who imposes a sentence of 2 years here, in my degree he will impose same 2 years. In other places he could impose that same 2 years. So that is what we are trying to do.
Now, earlier you did make mention of implementation as perhaps the biggest challenge that the Law Reform Commission goes through or has to endure. Are there any other challenges apart from that one?
The major problem of law reform has been we reform legislations, but for it now to be finally enacted into law is the area we've been suffering. You see, recently the National Assembly have been quite gracious to us, that they have shown interest in trying to see how our laws can now be reformed to enable them work more effectively with us, so that our products, that is our law reform exercises, now see the light of the day. And also, in the last 2 years, the National Assembly, they have so much been patronizing us that most of their bills, they now send them to us for input. Now, finally, whatever input we make, we'll always see its results when the law is enacted. So there has been that little improvement, and with the interest shown by the National Assembly, we believe that in no distant time, the rate of implementation will be better than it is today.
Let's even look at the relationship of the Law Reform Commission vis-a-vis the National Assembly. Now, I understand recently you were there to meet with the lawmakers in a public hearing, so to speak. Now, what can you tell us that actually transpired from that meeting?
See, the National Assembly has they've demonstrated so much confidence in us, and we've been seeing the results also of our input. And the relationship has been quite cordial. It has been quite interesting. The assignment is better now. We feel delighted that at the end of the day, the public is beginning to see our efforts, because the laws are now finally being enacted, and we're happy about that development.
So in other words, are you saying that there are no pressures from the National Assembly over the Nigerian Law Reform Commission?
No, from the National Assembly, no, we don't have any pressure at all. Indeed, all that they have been requiring of us is to make input in some of their bills. And that we've always been gradually doing it, because it is our delight to see that whatever is our input, based on our research, Now, come